Hello everyone, this is Miss Anna from the Eldersburg branch, and I'm here today to show you guys how to turn a regular pair of gloves into a pair of touchscreen gloves with some conductive thread. And I'm the only one in here, and that is why I don't have my mask on. And excuse the mess behind me, there's like 5 different programs getting in the process of being planned, and the 3D printer's running, so I'm sorry if that's loud. So you should have the majority of the supplies you'll need for this craft in your kit. You'll get a pair of gloves. Not all of the gloves are the same. You kind of, our glove variety is what the dollar store had. So you might get, I can't promise what color you'll get. I'm just going to use this black pair because it's a sample and the conductive thread shows up really visibly. You'll also get some conductive thread. It normally comes in a little bobbin that looks like this that you can put in a sewing machine. But for our purposes, it's going to look like this, kind of metallic-y. And you'll get some of that wound up, and you will get a sewing needle, which I put down, and now it's vanished. Alright, here it is. It was stuck to the magnet on my computer, but you also need a sewing needle. You should get that in your kit as well. And I'm going to go ahead, and my first step is going to be to thread my needle. So I'm going to take a piece of my conductive thread, and you just want to stick the end through the hole in your needle. And the conductive thread does fray very easily, and it's conductive in the sense that this kind of thread can actually conduct electricity. It's got little metal fibers in it, so that if I were to sew it to a light bulb and a battery, the light bulb would light up. I've done crafts like that before. Way in the before times, before the quarantine, I did a program where we made felt bookmarks, and we sewed a trace with this thread, and when you connect a light bulb and a battery, it lit up because it's conductive. The electrons can flow through the thread. We'll talk about that a bit more later. So now I've got my thread on the needle. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tilt my computer down so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to tie a big knot at the end. Just keep going a few times because you don't want it to pull through on the glove. And depending on what kind of glove you get, if you get like a fuzzy kind, it'll have bigger holes in the knit. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So now you'll have something that looks like this. Ah. Where's my camera? Like that. You have a big knot at the end. Now we're going to grab our pair of gloves. And another quick tip, a lot of times we like instinctively lick the end of our yarn to get through the needle. This stuff tastes pretty gross and metallic-y, and also there's a pandemic, so I recommend not licking the end of it. So for our next step, I'm going to encourage you guys to go find a marker like this, or something that's similarly shaped, because I saw a tutorial for this once, and you're also going to grab your gloves, that recommend sticking your hand in the glove in order to start sewing it, and I think that sounds a good way to stab yourself, so we're going to use a marker instead. But what you're going to want to do is first put the glove on your hand, and you're going to want to use the glove that you hold your phone, the glove for the hand you hold your phone in, so your dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use this glove. And then go get your phone, and notice how you tend to swipe on your phone. If you tend to go like this, or if you tend to just scroll with your thumb like this, and you'll notice currently this doesn't do anything. I just got a notification up here, I tap on it, nothing happens. And that's because the touchscreen is not reading my hand. So I need to do something conductive on here. We'll talk a bit about how the touchscreens work at the end. But I need something that I can touch this while still wearing my gloves, and that's where the conductive thread is going to come in. And we really only need to do our thumb and forefinger because those are really the only fingers you use on your phone. If you happen to do it a different way, you can just do those fingers instead. But I'm just going to do my thumb and forefinger, and I'm going to notice that I just kind of use the pads of each. So I only really want to sew right here and like right here. So I'm going to take my glove off, and I'm actually going to start with that finger, and I'm going to turn it inside out to begin with. And you also got to pick, I like having the little tag on top of my hand. So I'm going to designate right here as the place where my first pad's going to go. And we're going to sew a little touchscreen pad. So you're going to turn that inside out. I'm going to tilt this down so you can see what I'm doing. Go on ahead and turn my glove inside out, and I'm just going to stick the marker in where that forefinger goes. So it's going to look like this. And this is the side I want to start putting the pad on. So I'm going to take my needle and thread, and I'm just going to loop through. So what you're going to want to do is once you get that marker in, you're just going to find a point here about where you estimate that pad is, and bring your thread in and out. You just weave it in like that and pull it through. So it'll look like this. And then right about when you get there, you'll notice it's kind of easy to still pull your knot through. So what we're just going to do, this is like a little cheat, is tie one end of your thread to the other, right about where your knot is. And this will just keep it from falling loose on you. And that way you can make sure that no matter how big the knit is on your glove, that's not going to come out. And then you can just cut that little tail, and you're going to just take your thread right where that knot is and push it through, but don't go all the way through. Just go through the first layer and then put your glove back right side in, or right side out. Be careful not to stab yourself with the needle while you do this. And then when you pull it through, your thread will be on the right side. So you notice that I put the glove back on, and that is just about where I want it. So the thread's on the right side, and it's right where I use my touch screen. And that's exactly what I want it to do. And when I talk about the knit, you can't really see it on this glove because it's fuzzy, but that's when you pull apart. I'll show you on my shirt here. These little lines that you see is the knit of the fabric, and sometimes there's little holes in between it, and that can make it hard for when you're sewing for the knot to stay in. So that's why we just got to be careful when we're putting that knot in. So now that we've got the thread back on the right side of our glove, we're going to take our marker and just put that back in there. And we're going to do something called a satin stitch. I'm actually going to, so you can see how this is give or take the shape of your finger. So we want it to start about here. So I'm going to actually push my thread in and bring it back up right about here. And to do this stitch, I'll bring it closer to the camera. We're just going to pick a point directly opposite where our thread came through. So if our thread is out right here, we're going to bring our stitch to right about here and just push it through the top layer of the glove right here, and then bring it back directly underneath where our first stitch was. So it'll look like this. And that is very hard to see on the fuzzy glove. I might switch to a not fuzzy glove for purposes of demonstration. So for purposes of demonstration, I've actually switched to a different pair of gloves, but I promise whether you get a fuzzy pair or a not fuzzy pair, you'll do the exact same process for what we just did. For threading your needle and sticking it in your glove and tying it off, it's going to be the exact same process. But on the fuzzy glove, the thread kind of disappeared on us. So I'm just going to use this one that isn't fuzzy for purposes of demonstration. So once you've got your needle and thread on the right side, you're going to take your marker and shove it back in like that. And we're also just going to bring that over a little bit because we want to create like a pad that goes across this whole thing. We're going to create a touchscreen pad. So I'm going to stick that in right here and bring it right back out. And this is going to be my starting point. From here, we're going to do something that's called a satin stitch. And that's kind of an embroidery term. If you ever tried embroidery, it's real similar to that. I'm going to hold this here and hope that works. But I'm going to see where my thread's coming out there. I'm going to go to a point directly across from that and just stick my thread back in. And you can feel your needle rubbing along where the marker is, but I'm going to bring my needle through directly under where my first stitch went in. And don't pull it too tight. You want something that sits flat like this. So you see that first line right here? Then we're going to do that again. We're going to put our needle in, and we're going to make sure that it is right under this point here. So you're going to be making pretty much a bunch of rows. And we're going to bring it directly under where that thread went in. Pull it through gently, and now you'll notice we have 2 rows next to each other. And if I'm going to undo my needle, my marker out, and I turn the whole glove inside out again, you'll notice that I have the same pattern going on the back. You want to make sure that there is thread touching your skin and thread on the glove touching the foam, because you need that point so it's conductive. And again, I'll go into that a little more, but essentially what's happening is you're creating the bridge between your skin, which is needed to activate the touchscreen, and the phone itself. We're creating something conductive. And I also like to just kind of put the glove on every now and then and check that it's hitting where you want it to hit. I'm actually going to go up a little bit and then keep going back down. So I'm going to put my marker back in. And you're just going to keep doing that stitch for a bit, and it may take a little while. Sewing can be a little time consuming, but it's also very fun. It's a very, once you get like acclimated to it, it's a very good like do in front of Netflix activity. And my marker's already in there, so I'm actually going to go up. I'm going to go, if I want to go up, I'd stick my needle through there, pull through, go all the way to the other side, come back around, and pull. And remember, if you pull too tight, it'll cinch. You don't want it to cinch up. You just want it to keep laying flat. I'm going to adjust my marker, and you're going to keep doing that until you've got a whole little pad right there. And I'll show you what that'll look like and get back to you when it's done. So this is what it looks like so far. I still got a ways to go, but I've run low on threads. I'm taking this opportunity to show you what to do. So you're just going to stick that through the top layer and just leave your needle in there. Pull out your marker. And carefully, so you don't stab yourself, turn that inside out. Pretty much all you want is for your thread to be on the wrong side of your glove. And from there, you're going to take your needle, loop it through another stitch, thread your thread back through. I take a couple tries because needles have tiny holes. And once you loop that through a stitch, you're just going to pull it really tight like this. And you even can try doing that again. Just find a stitch, loop it through, and then go backtrack through that loop that you just made. And that should tie off your thread. And then you can just take the end and pull it really tight, and then cut off that tail end. And then just start again with a new piece of thread. And keep going until you've pretty much covered as much as you want your fingertip covered. And I'll get back to you once I'm done. So I actually have the glove on, but you can see this is what it looks like when I'm all done. And if I were to turn this inside out, I've got my needle in there too, because I gotta be careful. I'm actually gonna poke that through so I can tie it off. Should have done that before I clicked play. But on the inside, you can see I've got conductive thread here as well. Now you can. And to make sure that doesn't come loose, I'm going to loop my thread through there, loop it through this loop I made, pull it tight, and cut it off. And now I'm going to test it. I'm going to put it on. Going to make sure that I can feel the conductive thread on the inside of the glove. So you want to make sure, once again, that the conductive thread is touching both your skin and the touchscreen. So I'm going to grab my phone from off camera here and see if I can swipe with it. Oh, whoa, check that out. Isn't that cool? If I wanted to go and let's find an app. I'm going to open Hoopla. And of course it's going to take forever to load because I'm trying to film here. Yep, I would be able to scroll through and open an audiobook without taking my gloves off. Isn't that cool? You can click out, scroll around, open the calculator, and click the buttons. I think that is really cool. And from there, I won't do this on camera because I imagine that would be pretty boring, but you're going to want to do the same thing on the thumb. So that way, you can sit and scroll like this. And after we do that step, I'll tell you guys about how this works. So we are actually in my basement now because I don't know if you can see, but it is snowing outside and the library closed and I'm working from home. But I went ahead and finished up my touchscreen gloves, and I'll even put the other glove on. You see that I put a pad of conductive thread on both my forefinger and my thumb. And I'm going to pick up my phone and see, I can't do anything with this hand. Nothing happens. But if I'm going to tilt this down so you can see, with my conductive thread glove, I can swipe at that reminder and it goes away. I can enter my password and then I have access to all of my apps. I can just flip through and I can just open my apps using my touchscreen gloves. I can check on the weather and see how long it's going to be snowing. And that's because I made sure that my skin was touching the conductive thread was touching both my skin and the touchscreen. And I'll go into a quick explanation of how that works. So how do the touchscreen gloves work? So a lot of touchscreens, such as the one on my phone, and I think most touchscreen phones, are something called capacitive touchscreen. This means that rather than using pressure, they rely on a top layer of glass that's coated with a transparent conductive material. This website I'm reading says it's usually indium tin oxide. And when you press the display screen, your finger absorbs some of the electricity flowing through the conductive material, and the device then uses their touch as a command. And touchscreen gloves in particular are unique because they are designed specifically to work with these capacitive touchscreens, such as smartphones or tablets, excuse me. And it's actually pretty simple. The fingertips of the gloves, or in our case, the conductive thread, is a conductive material, which means that they absorb the electrical current produced by the screen. So when you touch the surface of the device while wearing the touchscreen gloves, your fingertips absorb some of the electrical current and issue the command to the touchscreen device. And that is why when we use regular gloves, they don't interact with the touchscreen. But when we add something conductive like this thread, we can then issue those commands to the touchscreen device. Just like I'm doing now with my computer, even though you can't see. And that is how we can turn a regular pair of gloves into a touchscreen glove. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at ajohns@carr.org. Please go and the comments of this Facebook post and share a picture of your gloves. You might even want to decorate them if you've got an embroidery thread at home. You can embroider onto your gloves, or you can glue things on them and make like ugly Christmas gloves. Oh, actually, it's after Christmas that I'm filming. I'm filming this in December. I keep forgetting that this video is going to go out in January. But if you want to decorate your gloves anymore beyond just your touchscreen pads, feel free to just go ahead, post a picture on Facebook, and everyone have a fun time with this activity. And please email me if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye.